Welcome, everyone. It is a pleasure to have you here. This is the Hopenning, a place where hope happens when you open yourself up to it. Marina and I have created a space that is positive, uplifting, and more than anything else, will bring you hope. I am a part time rapid transformational therapy practitioner, and I'm a 34-year veteran elementary school teacher. I am pleased to have with me my friend Marina, who is a full-time clinical hypnotherapist specializing in rapid transformational therapy. Marina has a background in music, and she was singing by the time she was walking, I would say. She sings with a big band and is part owner in a Christmas caroling business. She lives in Calgary, Alberta, and I live in Northern Alberta. We are both in Canada. And this is Hopenning number 56. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Marina, we have a special guest here today, and I am so excited to have her here, Brandi Taylor. Marina, take it away.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you for that awesome introduction. So, there's so much I want to say about Brandi. Brandi and I met in person a few years ago through a friend and a networking event. And then COVID happened and we lost touch. And one day I am online doing one of the master classes with Marissa Peer. And I normally don't follow the chats and I just see this name, Brandi Taylor, saying something. And I'm like, text message her during this masterclass. Are you the Brandi Taylor in the Marissa Peer masterclass? And ever since then, we've been inseparable because we're both on the same path and we share a lot of things. So Brandi's background, Brandi Taylor, founder of Fear It Goes, RTT hypnotherapist and transformative coach, helps women struggling with trauma, anxiety, and limiting beliefs uncovering what's really happening and why they aren't getting the results they want. Brandi knows firsthand, once you get to the root problem, everything else falls away and all the tools and practices you've learned start to take effect. Now empowered, nothing stops you from becoming the exception to any rule and truly living the life of your dreams. A mother of two boys, Brandi is a best-selling author. I Am a Brilliant Woman, Volume 3, and writing her latest book, It's All About You, Baby, How to Live Your Authentic Self in an Inauthentic World. From radio talk shows to international stages to her weekly podcast, Fear It Goes, her insights into the human mind are unique. Come along for the journey. The first podcast episode, Pooping My Pants and Doing It Anyway. So there's Brandi for you. Love it, Brandi, love it.
So because Brandi, sometimes you just got to bring humor.
Right, absolutely. Brandi, you have quite the story and quite a shocking story that I think if we just come right out of the gate, people will gasp. So I do actually want to do that. Right. So Brandi is the daughter of a convicted serial child rapist, right?
Actually, he wasn't a child rapist. He was a rapist.
A rapist. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
And Brandi is living a life today that I think any person who comes from any hurt, any trauma can really admire because she did not get labeled by that. It's a story that she tells today. So Brandi, tell us more.
It's so weird. I've never had someone introduce me like that. So yes, I am the daughter of a convicted serial rapist. But it's interesting as you sit here and say like traumas and what they do to us. And we've had many, many conversations around trauma. And trauma is this thing that is like this massively emotional charged event or set of events, which then cascade many, many, many events to follow to prove that belief that you carry in yourself from that original event. And so mine began when I was really young. The first memory I have of my father and of memory I have was when my mother was trying to leave him and she's standing at the farmhouse door, and we were living on a farm at the time just outside the city. And she's got my sister and I, who are almost the same age, we're born the same year. She's got my sister and I in her arms, and she's got a suitcase, and she's literally trying to leave. And he looks at her and he's got a shotgun in his hand, and he points it at her head and he said, "If you leave here with them, I'll kill you. I'll kill you right now." And that was the first memory I had. And it was massively affecting because you immediately recognize that you have no worth, you have no power, you have no abilities. And my mom couldn't leave. She tried to leave him numerous times, but couldn't leave. He hunted her down one time. Like, it's just, the stories from that time are really, truly crazy. And my mom and I have talked about them many, many times. And there's certain things that she feels are her story to tell, which I'm fine with. And then there's certain things that I tell. And the important part of what I remember and what's changed and what will help you today is that any traumas, and there were lots. He was a beater, he was emotionally abusive, physically abusive, mentally abusive. He was just very, very abusive person. But the things that you learn through that and what helps you empower the situation to the point where you no longer are attached to it at all. And I can now talk about this today like I'm telling you how to make a sandwich. It's just, it's so empty. It's devoid of any emotional attachment. And getting to that point was a lot. It took me a long time. Like, I thought I had gone through a lot of the healing in my early to mid 20s, but I just scraped the surface. I'd first become aware of the victim at that point, and that I was a victim. I didn't think of myself as a victim, but when I looked back in my 40s and really did the deep work, like the deep work, that's when I started to recognize it wasn't just a victim, but what that victim meant too, and all the other times that that victim had been triggered because of the original event, right? So when we're in victimhood, which it's kind of an interesting identity that the ego plays through, but when you're in victimhood, it's tough because society always tells you that you're right. It's okay to be a victim. You know, everything's happening to you, poor you, and there's a reward in that poor you. And until you kind of dissociate from the reward, it's really hard to let go of that victim because it's doing something important, protecting you, helping you, allowing you to move forward in ways that aren't crippling, even though it's usually highly destructive. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing that happens when we start to go through healing. And I'm also an RTT practitioner, clinical hypnotherapist. And honestly, I think hypnosis is really magical in that way because it allows us to experience something as an observer instead of a participant. And I think that's one of the hardest things for most people who are dealing with trauma is that they don't want to relive it. It's so painful to draw up emotional content like that because it's been repeated over and over and over again. So your body's storing it everywhere. It's not in one place, it's all over. And there's so much of it. And I remember the first time, it's kind of funny actually, as we're sitting here having this conversation, I remember the first time this actually came up for me. I was at what I thought was a business coaching event, you know, a business development event. And it was really personal development disguised as a business event, and very good for me. Because we do this exercise and it's something about our childhood. And of course, what's my biggest issues with childhood is my father. So, and actually, weirdly enough, in conjunction with that, it was also my mother because she didn't leave. And so as a child, again, I recognize why she didn't leave as an adult, but as a child, you don't understand why the hell would you stay here when it's so bad, when you're watching your kids being beat, when you're being beat. Why would you stay? And so as a child, you make this reference point to yourself that it's okay to stay in something highly abusive. And as an adult, logically, you think it's not okay to be in abusive relationships, but your inner child doesn't recognize that. And guess what's running all of your actions is that inner child. It's not you as a logical adult. So I found myself in abusive relationships as an adult. I found myself in abusive relationships all the way through until I started seeing it for what it was. But anyways, back to this event. So I'm in my 40s. I go to this event and we go into this childhood exercise. And the exercise was, I don't even remember, we had to share it with someone. And I literally started crying. And it was the weirdest thing because I was not like this. I started crying and couldn't stop. Like to the point where I'm crying so hard, it's uncontrollable. And I cried like that for 2 hours. I had to leave the room. Like there's 150 people in this room. It's like, but I can't stop myself because it's so bottled up at that point. It's so stuck in there that once that floodgate opened, it was open. But it was the first release I had. It was the first emotional release I had. But it's funny because as I progress down the road of healing and we talk about hypnotherapy and this magic that I really truly believe it brings, is once you get to detach from being the participant, because that was really painful in that event. It was really, really painful, but also liberating, because by the time I finally could stop crying and could get myself under control, which is what that felt like, I couldn't control myself. When I could finally get myself under control, I kind of like went, no, 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 that's enough for now. That's enough for now. And then with hypnosis, what started to change that was the ability to be able to kind of look at it from a distance and see for what it was. It wasn't about all these things that had just happened. It was about the ideas I had around that. So the little child that went, well, how come you stay? We must not be worth it. We're not lovable. This is what we deserve. This is like all these ideas, these rudimentary thoughts we have as children because we don't have the ability to actually process things through logic or through rationale or through experiences. This is our experience. So I think that was something that was really a humongous gift and jump and leap in my transformation. But it was, there's pieces to what transformed that trauma. And I do believe that we have so many ways to truly get to the core of who we are, which is never our traumas, never our experiences. Those are just things that shape the course of our richness, I guess, and richness in the person we become. So when I reflect back on the life that I have lived and the experiences and moving through the trauma itself, and then all the cascading traumas that followed, like my first sexual experience was not of my own agreement. And then what happened after that, like there's just so much that had to be unpacked. But as you move through all these, you get to recognize like that these traumas are gifts. I know that sounds so weird. And it's what I wrote in this book that I'm published in, was that although we think that these things are these horrible, because they're horrible when we experience them. They're just so outside of alignment of who we truly are, these beautiful, loving, light beings. But we think they're so horrible. But what we're not seeing in the moment is the gift they bring us. There's so much power that's suppressed in them or taken from us, or power that's really, really just not available to us. And when you actually work through it, not only do you let go of it, but you regain all that power. And then you're like this freight train. I will never forget that feeling when it lifted and changed. And I went, oh my God, like I literally can do anything. And you feel like you're being pulled with this incredible force with purpose in life. And everything changes. But I said, like, there's kind of things that unlock you. Hypnosis was one of those things that started to unlock things. Meditation was another powerful tool that I now use daily. And I have practices that I use every day because they're so vital to us being healthy and connected to ourselves and grounded with what we truly are and all of our power. And if we're living in our experiences of the past, we're just re-traumatizing ourselves over and over and over again. And it's not living. It's just being the forever victim with no power.
Marina and I have talked about that many times, about how when we stay stuck in the story, when we stay stuck in the victimhood, we allow the perpetrator to have power over us again, even though we're strong and healthy and capable and intelligent and all grown up now. We allow that perpetrator to have the power over us again when we stay in victimhood. So yours was a transformation. It was quite, it seems like from your story, it sounds quite quick. like within the so-called business meeting, you spewed out, right? You spewed out. But I mean, that was the, if we were to say on your mark, get set, go, that was the start line, right?
Yeah.
And from then, from there to now, you've done a lot. You've done a lot of work. As you say, it's a daily work to stay strong. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Um, yes and no. So that event probably happened about 8 years ago, and it was the first time that I had really been introduced to how much was sitting there, more so than anything. So it was kind of the opening, and that's when I realized I got something here that really has to be processed. And I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, I have to do something about this. I was actually probably in my late 30s at the time, maybe early 40s. And it was the beginning, but I still didn't know what to do. I still was like, I called myself an event junkie because they're like the feeling and the vibes and the everything in those rooms would be so good. And it would feel so good because it was a relief from all this pressure and pain and sadness and guilt and shame that I carried, which I didn't recognize. I was carrying his. I carried so much of his, not knowing that that's what I was doing. But so I go to this junkie event. I go to this other event. So funny. I go to this other event, and this woman is speaking, and she's talking about wounds. And I'm pretty extroverted, but in situations like this, where I've talked about something that's really deep and wounding and painful, I don't want to talk. I don't want to get up, right? So at that time, I didn't. So I stand up in this room. There's probably about 900 people in this room. I stand up and I'm shaking. I'm vibrating. I'm so scared to say what I'm about to say. But I stand up, I hold my hand up, and she comes up, and I said, okay, so my question is this. I said, I have really big goals in this life. I want to do really big things, but I can't seem to get past my wounds. I don't know how to get past them, but I need to get past them because I cannot achieve this. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, sweetheart, you don't get past them. And this is the key. You don't get past them. You use them. And I had no clue what she meant at the time, like none whatsoever, because I was so dissociated from any of these concepts of unattached love, of unattachment to experience, because I was so emotionally charged with so much in my life. I had no concept of emotional regulation, like at all. And to be completely honest, anyone who's been through trauma usually doesn't know emotional regulation until they learn it, because these events create problems with emotional regulation. So anyways, I stand up and I'm like, okay, she's my people. So I go to another one of her events. I feel good. And the first day, it's like this 12-hour long teaching day. And I'm like, I know this. It's like Tony Robbins. It's like NLP. It's like all these different methods. And she's talking about the stuff. And I'm like, I already know this. But then it hits me. See, this is the funny part of us as humans. When we're in the midst of learning something, there's that pride or that, I don't want to say arrogance, but almost, and especially people, I'm just going to leave that there, but where we go, I know this. But then the question hit me, but why am I not living it? And then all that pride just washed away. All of that arrogance I was carrying just washed away because it didn't matter what I knew. I was like this walking encyclopedia with all these books on my shelves that I wasn't actually accessing, right? So I realized this in her event. I still don't take action. I want to, but I don't. And it's not until like probably I have my first mindset coach I work with about 6 or 7 months later. And even that I'm still stuck in and sort of getting through some of it, because we talked about like how to work through negative thoughts. And while that was helpful, it was just the surface. And I was still stuck on the surface of all these problems because I wasn't ready to let them out. And then it was, actually, it was one of Marissa's courses she did. She did the unlimited life or the unconditional life, one of those, something like that. And I did her course, but full disclosure here, I did it kind of half-ass. You know, like I didn't do all of the lessons in it. I just did the hypnosis, which is cheating. And I was cheating myself. Like I'm not cheating anybody else. I'm the one doing the course. I'm the one copping out on different parts. But it was kind of interesting because I felt little shifts and I felt things kind of moving, but not enough. And what really did it for me was another trauma. Because again, my trauma was really big and I need something just as big in power to knock me into what I needed. And so doing these courses weren't cutting it for me. Because I'm stubborn. I am a strong-willed soul. So I needed something very big to create the energy around it, to create enough catalyst for me to change. And it was a breakup with something that really mattered to me. And it was really difficult. And I was doing work at the time, like inner work at the time, learning a lot about like identities and ego. And because I already done mindset stuff, but I didn't really understand the depth of the subconscious and our survival system. I like to call the ego the survival system because it's literally us in survival, right? It's us in all our low-grade emotions and it's us vibrating in fear. That's it. And it plays out in lots of different ways. And the mind will rationalize a million different ways, but it's still the same. Like it's that simple. So I was stuck in this survival and that catalyst was it. So I literally started to go, I surrender, I let this go. I'm just going to allow this to be whatever it needs to be. And that was such a huge, huge component. And I cannot express that enough. Being in a situation where you have someone there to hold the space for you, or like I was at a point where I could hold my own space because I'd done so much work. I could actually hold my own space. But where someone can hold the space for you to be able to really let it be everything in that moment. And that's why I said, I think hypnosis is so wonderful for that, because again, pulling yourself back and you have that safety net of the person that you're working with to hold that space for you, hold that love for you, hold that container and know that you're in safety, because trauma is not about safety. Trauma is about not being safe. So having that safety around you is essential. But it was in those moments I was like, okay, I'm going to let this be everything that it needs to be. This happened on a Friday. And then by Monday, I'm going to pick myself up so I can be as messy as I want. I went to a friend's house who's like family to me. There's my safety, right? And I just cried. I just cried for hours and hours and hours. And I just like let things out, not realizing what I was doing, because all this emotional release had to happen to heal. And because I'd stored so much of it, it had to come out. It had to come out. And for some people, that emotional release will not be through tears. Like Marina, you and I have talked about this. Sometimes now when I'm emotionally releasing, I start laughing. I laugh, and it's such a awesome feeling to be able to release emotions through laughter. But it took a long time because there was too much pain in the beginning. It was like I had to release through tears, or some people will release through something physical because the body needs to let go. So whatever that physical way that your body will let go, it has to let go, right? So what we do in the mind still has to move through the body. Like our bodies are creations of whatever we're doing here. So it was literally that weekend, and this was actually funny because it's what made me actually go become a hypnotherapist. That weekend, so Friday I cried all day, all night. I slept for like an hour. Marissa had some sort of like, I don't know, she was doing some sort of class or whatever, and she did a hypnosis in it, and I happened to go to it. And it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm listening to this, and I've slept 1 hour. I'm miserable. And it was amazing because I came out of that hypnosis and I was like, I don't feel perfect, but I feel better. I felt like I feel a little bit better. And that's when it hit me. I don't feel perfect. That's okay. I'm allowed to feel not okay, but I feel better. I feel a little bit better. And every time I can feel a little bit better. And then seriously, magic happened literally right after that. So this was Saturday. Sunday, I kind of came to this conclusion, I'm going to be okay, no matter what. I'm still sad. I'm still experiencing this, but like I know I'm going to be okay. And then Monday, I'm driving and I literally feel all these emotions shifting in me. And it's like everything's just leaving. Literally like this. Like I just felt myself rising. And it's weird when you let go of emotional baggage because it has a physical weight to us, like a truly tangible physical weight to us. And it's why we carry illness. It's why we carry, a lot of times why we'll carry physical weight, as in I'm carrying these extra pounds, but it's because we're holding on to all this emotional stuff. And so as this is lifting, I'm literally feeling lighter. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm floating right now. This is the weirdest feeling physically. And then I had like this massive shift and massive awakening actually that happened immediately after that, because I couldn't be true to myself. I couldn't be authentic. I couldn't be in integrity with myself. I couldn't be any of these things. I couldn't own my power because I was holding on to all this stuff inside my container. And as soon as you let go of that, your container is open and free to fill up with all these wonderful things, right? And I often say, like, when it comes to forgiveness, oh, I love forgiveness. People misunderstand forgiveness all the time because forgiveness they think is about the other person. It's not. It's truly about yourself. If you think of yourself as a cup and you're holding on to all this stuff that's happened, all these experiences, all this anger, all this resentment, all these stories, all these things that have been a part of you up until this point. And they're like, and they make you feel crummy. They make you feel really bad. They make you feel angry, whatever those emotions are that sit low, right? Anything that doesn't make you feel high and happy, they're low grade emotions and they're you in survival. So anything that's in there needs to be let go of because your container only holds so much until you, one, increase the capacity of your container, and two, let go of this garbage that's in it. And your container will never increase in capacity until you start letting go of stuff and start putting good stuff in there, and it will expand and grow. And it's amazing what happens when it expands and grows and what you are capable of giving. So forgiveness is key. And when I first started doing the forgiveness stuff with my dad, well, sorry, I never use that term because my mom's been remarried and I really do think of him as my dad, of my father. Originally, at first, I was like, I forgive you for the things that you did, right? Like that, I would go through all these things that he did. That was the beginning of my forgiveness journey. And then after that, I got to a point where I was like, I forgive you for the person that you were in those moments. And then I got to the next point. And this is what I think is missing in a lot of people's understandings of forgiveness. Is when we reach a certain level with forgiveness, we get to the point of true compassion. And we see that person in all of their pain, their struggles, their own identities, their own traumas, their own things that have warped and shaped their lives. And as much as my father has done some horrendous things in his life, because he has, and still continues to be that person, which I think is sad for him, that's his existence. I've forgiven all of that and I've sent him off with what he was missing most, which was love. He never had it. He never had it. He had no safety as a child. He had lots of fear as a child. He had lots of abuse as a child. So therefore just brought all that into his adult life and took power where he felt he could get it because he never knew it. Right? So there's this amazing thing that happens when we truly forgive someone and let it really go. And we wrap them up with this compassion and love. It's funny, as I'm saying this, I'm feeling it. But it's not only freeing for us, it's energetically freeing for them. So we give them an opportunity to rise up even just a little bit from where they sit in their zones of survival. Like, I don't wish anything that he did to anybody. I don't wish that on anyone, never. But I hope that anyone who's experienced these things finds their power and their strength in it. And if they can't, seek someone who can help you find that power and strength because it's liberating. It's liberating. It's life-changing. It's altering. It's like, it's magic. It's the magic we are. It's us in our true selves. Instead of being burdened and carrying this baggage that's so heavy, it feels like death.
Yes, so many amazing things that I should have made notes as you talk about. I'm so mesmerized by it. A few things that you said that came up with me is this actually, this last point is one of the biggest ones, to set yourself free to the point where you can set the person
free.
who has hurt you free. Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could not have put that better. And I think that is something to really aspire to, because I think most people walk around still letting in the pain. And until
Yeah.
you can get to that point where you set them free, it will always come back. And I think that's a great lesson for me as well, Brandi.
Okay, so I have a funny little analogy here. I used to describe it like this, and I still do, I have to admit, because it's kind of funny. So when you look at traumas in your life, and I now see trauma so different. So I've had big traumas, right? First and foremost, never compare yourself to anybody else, because what you experience is your own.
Right.
It doesn't matter what anyone else has experienced, that's not yours. Those experiences you have affect you as the human you are. So don't compare yourself, because it doesn't matter that, oh, that mine wasn't that bad. I should feel grateful. Yes, you should feel grateful, because we're living and we have this opportunity to live absolutely incredible lives. We do. So that's exciting. But one, drop the guilt, drop the shame, drop the judgment, drop all of that, because it has nothing to do with your healing. Two, understand that traumas are anything that affect you and sets you up for patterns in your life. So, or let me rephrase that, destructive patterns in your life, because we have patterns in our lives. We have coping mechanisms. Some work, some don't. But it's understanding that these patterns are things that you can clear and change and adapt, and they're things you want to. But think of it like this. If your trauma is this gift, I know it sounds so weird when I say these things. If your trauma is a gift, and it's this gift over there in the corner, wrapped in shit paper, it's disgusting. It smells bad. It looks bad. It's got flies coming off it. It's like, you don't want to go near that. It's disgusting. It's so terrifying to like get yourself in there, because it's gross. It's like everything you don't want to do until you get inside. And then when you get inside that, it's like the most beautiful part of you. It's the most beautiful part of you. And then after that, you recognize every one of these gifts, or every one of these things are gifts. And then you start running to them. But the first one's honestly the hardest, because like I said, I cried for hours in very public space. I could not stop myself because I had so much trapped in there. So the first one is ugly. It's ugly. And it's okay. It's okay to be ugly. It's okay to be a mess. It's okay to be human. And it's so okay to let go of every judgment, every thought you've ever had about why you should feel ashamed of this, why you should feel guilty, because people will put things on you that have nothing to do with you at all. Nothing. So let them all go. Like all those thoughts, and it's just someone else's stuff you're agreeing to. You don't have to agree to any of it. You get to make your own rules. It's a beautiful part of life. So go after those gifts. The first one, I'm not kidding when I say this. If you have never done the inner work, or never done the, like, gone into your inner worlds, is really what this has to do with. If you've never gone into your inner worlds, get a guide, get a mentor, get a coach, get a hypnotherapist, get a guide, because they will know how to get you way past the points you can, way faster, and a lot less painful than what I did to myself. You don't have to have these major triggering trauma events to unlock an old trauma, which is what I realized after I started doing, like, truly doing the work. And once I hit a certain point in what I knew and how to help myself, because I was way too stubborn to really go see someone. And actually, this is weird too. I did go see someone when I was, I saw someone when I was 16. because I tried to kill myself because I had a memory surface and then go right back under one night, and I tried walking in front of a car, and it was kind of interesting because the guy in the car was an off-duty fireman. So he takes me into the hospital, blah blah blah, and I see this psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist looks at me after I kind of tell him what's going on. He's like, "Wow, you really have your stuff together for a 16-year-old. You're good. See ya." And he let me go. So, and I was not okay. I was not okay, but I thought I was. I thought I totally had it all together. I totally thought I had it together even in my 20s when I was repeating some really highly destructive patterns. And I still wasn't recognizing all this stuff I was carrying. And so when I say get a guide, get a coach, get a mentor, get a someone who really knows what they're doing to carry you through those times that are truly the most difficult, because it's the first. It's the first. It's the unfamiliar. It seems so scary. And if you don't have a good guide, I feel like a lot of times people can get re-traumatized. This is again why I said I think hypno is so beautiful in this way, because reliving the trauma for a lot of people is, again, it's what it does, right? So from a physical standpoint, from an us in this body standpoint, we have these thoughts. So we're talking about the story. So we have these thoughts, and then these emotions are released again, and then flooding our bodies again. So you're basically re-traumatizing your body over and over and over again to deal. You don't have to do that. It's why I said, like, you can cry in hypnosis, but it's not the same. Like, lots of people cry under hypnosis, but it's not the same. It's not that same attached feeling. It's just more of a release. It's your body releasing, and it's totally okay, right? It's freaking, oh. I love it. I love that can be the way for so many to start their journey, so that every time they have releases afterwards, it's never that bad. And they can move down the path to healing. And then to truly, healing is the beginning of truly discovering who you are. Because all that stuff that you're carrying is preventing you from being all the magic that you are, and all the ways you want to serve, and all the ways you want to give, and all the ways you want to receive in your life. And there is no difference, by the way, between giving and receiving. So to all of you wonderful people out there who think that you're such a giver and you can't receive, you're stealing from yourself and from others every time you do that. It's the same coin. It's not two different things. So important lesson to learn, which is something I teach also, kind of like the forgiveness thing, but is around like the concept of giving and receiving. Very much like I'm giving you a gift and you tell me, and and I've spent like a month trying to figure out what I'm going to give you, and I really give this lots of thought, and it means something to me to give this gift to you, and you say, nah, I don't really want it. Thanks. Like, you've taken that away from me, that feeling of giving. And so every time we give, that's what we get. And why wouldn't we want to give that to someone else too? Right? So that giving and receiving is very much the same thing. Never mistake that. Never mistake that. But yeah, find your person, find your guide.
So Brandi, you, Marina, myself, we know this, we live it, we do it, we practice this, we're walking the path. We're walking the path. We've got a journey, but we're walking this path. And I can hear some people who might be watching our show saying, well, it's fine for you. You don't have a 9-to-5 job that you have to go to every day where you're dealing with Joe Public, and it's fine for you because whatever, there's always those excuses. I mean, and they do have a point, right? They do have a point, the 9-to-5 job where you have to focus on whatever it is you're focusing on. It's different for us because we truly do. I mean, we embrace this. We know it works. Like the three of us, we know here in our heart that it works because it has worked for all three of us. What kind of
Right.
advice would you give to the neophyte who's like tuning in because they kind of like Marina and they kind of like me and they kind of like you, but they're still over there? I mean, that's fine for you because, that's fine for you, but I'll just stay over here. So what kind of advice would you give to them?
Okay, so remember I said I went to that event and recognized I had all these wounds that needed healing, but I wasn't doing it. That's exactly what you're talking about. I was running a business. I had two very young children. I literally was working like 12, 14-hour days working. I would come home. The kids were in sports. Like my life was insane at that time. Like there was so much going on and I was so busy. So I totally understand what people might think when they're like, well, you don't have to worry about this. Oh, yes, yes, yes. However, what I did learn was this: the way we prioritize things in our lives matter. What goes in my calendar are my priorities for me. I had to start prioritizing things that meant that I was going to be better a little bit more. I'm going to get better a little bit more today, a little bit more tomorrow, and every day I'm going to be a little bit better version of myself. So that's still me today, right? So I'm going to be a little bit better version of myself every day. But I had to prioritize it because otherwise everything in my life took over. Like everything in my life took over. And at some point in yourself, if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but what but is holding you back from you? Whatever would make us feel that we are not valuable enough to prioritize ourselves? Because us in our power is us doing amazing things in this world, us being the most amazing parents to our kids, having all the energy and love to give them. If we're coming from places of depletion, we can't truly give. And this is one of the things I find about, like, it's funny, as I talked about identities in the beginning, caregivers are notorious for this. And I have lots of caregiver friends, and I'm a caregiver, where you will give to the point of complete depletion and not recognize that you cannot really truly offer the best parts of yourself and the best service you can give to the world around you when you're in those states. So I'm a parent. I'm a single parent. I have two boys. They're a little bit older now. They're kind of young men now, and it's weird. But honestly, like, life will always find ways to fill your time. Always. There will always be things for you to say yes to.
So I have a question. If a client comes to you and they have still that absolute underlying feeling that I am not good enough, I'm not worthy of all of this, because I think that is exactly why people keep getting stuck in that place. How do you deal with that?
Actually, I have a beautiful exercise that I do with lots of people, and it's the beginning of them recognizing who they are. And it's funny because the very first one is I have the very first exercise I do with people is this. I have them write in a journal, which now is in my booklet, one of the booklets I give clients. But and it's keep the first few pages of this journal empty, and you're going to write things I like and love about myself. And I'm not kidding. Like in the beginning, sometimes people will write one thing, 3 things. They can't think of any things. So it starts with that. And I said, okay, so you're going to write your own, whatever you can think up. I'm smart, I'm funny, I'm kind, I love my kids, whatever it is that, things that you like and love about yourself. And then you're going to give this to your closest friend or a few of your closest friends and your closest family, those who love you, okay, that you have these relationships with. And it's quite remarkable the things they see in you that you don't see in yourself. So if you're really at this point where you don't recognize your own value, right there, that says that there's, I just feel for you. I just want to wrap you up. But your value is everything that you're giving in this world. So when we're coming from a place where we don't feel valuable about ourselves, again, not only is this world robbed, but you're so robbed of this amazing being that you are. And it starts with just small steps to open yourself up. Self-love, I think, is the most important thing. Like, I'm now
Absolutely.
at this point where everything that I've worked with people for, I've worked with businesses, I've worked with divorces, I've worked with lots of interesting people, but always it boils down to the same thing, which is self-love and worth, right? And truly being able to get to the best parts of ourselves. And when you do, so I said I had that big unlocking. When that happened, it's like, I truly mean it's a magical moment for yourself, because you recognize what you truly are and this incredible being you are. And you're like, wow, oh my goodness, how have I not seen this before? How have I not seen how amazing I am? How have I not fallen like, you fall so madly in love with yourself? How have I not seen this absolute stunning, beautiful being that I am here, and that I get to be here in this existence, in this life? How have I not seen this before? And man, oh man, am I ever grateful I see it. So actually, gratitudes are a beginning to start to see worth in life, because all these things overlap, right? So have a gratitude practice. I think gratitude practices are fantastic. It's a really good practice to keep you connected to the world, to keep you connected to yourself, to keep you connected to things that actually matter in life. Gratitude practices are wonderful. It's a good place to start. And honestly, take that first page. Take that first page. If you are feeling low and down about yourself, write down the things you like and love about yourself. Go around to the people that you know care about you and ask them to write 3, 4, 5, whatever they can come up with. It doesn't matter if they overlap, but they will give you insights into yourself that you don't see yourself at this point. And it's just steps. Everything's just steps. And then one door opens, which gives you 5 more doors. And then you open another, and then you open another. And then literally you find yourself.
Well, Brandi, I think I speak for both of us if I say that we are grateful that you found yourself, because wow, what an amazing transformation and gift that you are. And so with that, thank you so much for being here with us today, telling your story, giving us all hope.
And Brandi, where can we find your books? Can you give us the titles again? And where can we find them?
It's funny, actually. I am currently writing It's All About You, Baby, How to Live Your Authentic Self in an Inauthentic World. And that's, I think, what I'm in the midst of reshaping a program that I'm doing. And I think that's what I'm going to call it. It's all about you, because I really do believe that once we touch ourselves, and that sounded so wrong. once we
At least you bring humor in as well.
Once we discover ourselves, in whatever way that might be, but once we discover ourselves, we really do create something magical. So that book is in the midst of being written. The other book you can find on Amazon. It's we'll leave the information in the write-up in this one.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the authors in that book. There's 12 of us, I think, in that book. It was published a couple years ago. And if you're looking for any courses or any information on how to help heal yourself, I'm sure we'll have the links also in the
so
in the write-up.
fearitgoes.com.
Yep. fearitgoes.com.
And then Brandi with an I, Brandi.
Yep.
At fearitgoes.com. That's your email. And then people can find you on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Taylor, on LinkedIn, it's Taylor Brandi, but they can just search you, Brandi Taylor. And on Facebook, Fear It Goes, and Instagram, fear_it_goes. Okay,
yeah.
so you have all the links. So the book on Amazon that you can find is, why don't I see it right here? I Am a Brilliant Woman, Volume 3.
Volume 3, right.
Okay, excellent. Brandi, thank you so much for being here today. We really enjoyed, I did, every moment. And hanging on your lips, your amazing story, your beautiful energy, your humor, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, and you just really wrapped it up into a package
Mhm.
of everything that Marina and I know, just about the self-love and the healing and the forgiveness and the gifts and
Yeah.
receiving. Just so much information in this tiny amount of time. Just so much wisdom, so much strength, so much healing. So we both thank you for that. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
Yeah,
so much
amazing.
with us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you
It
for
was
being
my
with us
honor to be
today.
here. Yeah.
And thank you to our audience for listening in, for watching us. And you know where to subscribe. And we will see you next time.